Hey soldiers, today we're going to talk about how to win this recession, how to thrive through this recession and come out of the end of it in a better financial situation than when we went in. Do you know that tough financial times, challenging economic times, are usually where fortunes are made? That's right. And we'll get into why that is in a moment. But I want you to know that what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some of the characteristics that lead to wealth, even in these recessionary times. We're going to look at the behaviors and some of the assets that do well in recessions. Now, look, we got these politicians and policymakers out there lying. They love lying. They're out there trying to redefine the term inflation. Don't buy it, because if you fall for that trap, you will miss several opportunities and maybe even put yourself in jeopardy. So they love lying. You got to remember that. They love being deceitful and they love obfuscating. And once we know that we have a mission that doesn't include what they say. All right. Now, I love you. We are nearing 1,000 subscribers and that blows me away. I appreciate it so much. Please, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and just hit that subscribe button. We'd appreciate you becoming a part of this army on Soldiers of Finance. We are committed soldiers in the war on poverty. I love you. I appreciate you. I look forward to building this community with you. And I just can't say it enough. Thank you so much. Again, I love you. Joni loves Chachi. Okay, guys, let's first look at what a recession is and the fact that we are in one. You've got the powers that be down in D.C. trying to convince you that 2 consecutive quarters is not a recession. Well, in 1974, Julius Shishkin, the economist, he came up with the characterization of a recession as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Now, as you can see from this chart, this is a Federal Reserve Bank chart of U.S. Federal Reserve. The shaded areas indicate recessions. And you will also see that the horizontal line represents the health of the GDP. So when it dips below 0, notice that only happens in the shaded areas. So the Fed is clearly okay with Julius Shishkin's definition of a recession. Each and every time we see that dip, it corresponds with the gray area, which is a recession. Now, they being the Fed, like this definition so much that they not only applied it in the mid-1970s and onward, they actually took his definition, and as you can see from the chart, they went back and applied it to the previous periods of negative economic growth, when you had negative GDP growth, when you had 2 consecutive quarters. So the Federal Reserve Bank has been running with this definition. Don't let them. Yeah, sure. It is true that the National Economics Research Board, who nobody ever heard of until this week, does look a little deeper into the data surrounding economic downturns. That's true. But calling a recession since 1974 has been something that's been consistent with Julius Shishkin's definition of a recession, 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Now, of course, if you have a third or fourth, then the recession goes on. It's got to be consecutive, though. Okay. All right. So now that we have that out of the way, let's focus on thriving through this thing. All right, let's start with your main source of income. Now, you know I'm a big advocate for multiple streams of income. All right. And you have any entrepreneurial inklings or leanings at all, you need to go ahead and move on that ASAP, because the world is changing. I got asked a question on a program the other night. They said, do you think, what's going to happen with the economy? Do you think things are going to change for the worse? I said, things are going to be different. Okay. Now, for some, things will be worse because they're not paying attention to what's going on out here. They're not soldiers of finance. But for the soldiers of finance, we're paying attention and we're getting prepared. So let's say you got that mainstream of income, your job. Let's just look at it from the standpoint of a W-2 job for right now. You've got that job and it's the only source of income. If you work for a large company like I did back in the day, I work for a very large Fortune 10 company. When they come through with layoffs, you really might not see it coming. You're privy to their financials if they're a publicly traded company. But you can rely on scuttlebutt and, the rumor mill. And if your department is on shaky ground. You also know if you're on shaky ground. They do those performance reviews. How did your last performance review look? Because that's what they'll use ultimately to say, okay, well, this guy got a 5 out of 10, so he's fair game. You've got companies that are large companies that are forecasting layoff. Mark Zuckerberg is really upfront about it at Facebook, or Meta, as they call it now. And he's saying, look, everybody that's here, this is a quote, everybody that's here don't need to be here. So he might have had less West Baltimore in it when he said it, but that's what he said. And that means if I'm a Facebook employee, I am looking for another opportunity, because I've seen people who got good performance reviews, who were the belle of the ball at the company, and because they shut down a department, that person had to leave too. So you might want to go out there if you're working a W-2 job and you're not inclined to start a business. And even if you are, a business, just because you go into business and you go to LegalZoom and you get an LLC started, doesn't mean that the next day revenue is going to start pouring in. That's a process. So you might want to take a look at a side hustle, okay? You might want to take a look at a second job, part-time job. And you definitely, if your company is public, you want to check the financials and you want to check statements made by the executives of that company to see if your continued employment is a likelihood. All right. That's about all you can do. And at a small company, you're not even privy to the financials most of the time. If they're not publicly traded, they're a private company, then they have no obligation to share financial data with you. So you might be more in the dark about what's going on financially. But you work at the company, you know the culture, you know good and doggone well that if the CEO of your small company is coming in disheveled and smelling like Jack Daniels, then there may be a problem. So shore up that income, because here's the deal, people. If you are out there doing everything you can to be financially savvy, to put away money, to put it to work for you, and you are separated from your main source of income, then you're in danger of possibly having to dip into those savings just to survive. And we don't want that. You're also in danger of putting expenses on credit and not being able to pay it off in the 30-day cycle. So now you're dealing with the expense plus the interest that they're charging you. And you do not want to be there in a high interest rate, in a rising interest rate environment. Remember that credit card debt, that is some of the highest interest debt out there, and rising. Now look, this is advice for everybody. Everybody could do well to observe this at any time. You gotta look for opportunities to save money. Let me tell you a vice that I have. It is a butter pecan signature iced latte large from Dunkin' Donuts. Extra shot of espresso, 2 glazed donuts. I get that. I used to get that, believe it or not, every day. Okay. And it was like close to $10 a day. Now I have a very high metabolism. Thank God. I weigh 5 pounds more than I did when I graduated high school. So it didn't impact me from a weight standpoint, but all that sugar, my God. I am down to 2 times a week with that vice, okay? So look, you got to live. You got to enjoy this life. So cut back where you can. Another place you might want to cut back, and look, I understand these small business owners out here that own these restaurants are under pressure right now. But my wife and I had a discussion. We were going to go get crab cakes last week. And she said, let's sit down. I said, I don't think so. Because if we sit down, then, and it was dinner time, then we're going to realize at least a 20% premium on the meal. And the reason for that is we have to give a tip. Not to mention, Maryland has a 6% alcohol tax. So we're almost realizing a 30% premium on a meal. And you might say, Tyrone, you are just not a romantic guy. And you would be right.
So you don't want a fish sandwich? Okay, that's cool, I guess. Listen, my car doesn't exist, so
Shut up.
Yes.
But my wife said, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Let's just go pick the crab cakes up and let's watch a movie on the Netflix that we pay for. And we had a grand old time, okay? So look for those opportunities. We still were able to patronize a local restaurant, but we didn't sit down in there and become responsible for 26% premium on the meal. So look for those opportunities to cut back, okay? Pack your lunch if you're going to work. If you're actually leaving the house, a lot of people are working from home today. Pack your lunch if you're working from home. This is a way that we can, keep money to put to work, especially in a time where assets are inexpensive. The assets are at a discount. Look at Walmart. They were at 15% off a few days ago, 11% today. These are companies. If you do your due diligence and figure out whether or not you should invest in it, these are companies that are on sale from the standpoint of their stocks and being able to get in on ownership of these companies, some of which pay you to own the stock in the form of a dividend. Now, speaking of assets, we want to acquire assets. What is an asset? An asset can be something that just appreciates in value, or it can be something that appreciates in value and provides an income, just like I said with the dividend paying stock. Now, your real estate is an asset that fits both descriptions. Investment real estate, where you rent it out. So if you bought right, it's appreciating in value more than likely, and it's providing an income because you got a renter in there who is paying a rent that is higher than your expenses for the property. When you look at stocks, though, what are some industries that are able to pretty much be recession proof? Well, the alcohol industry, for one. In fact, that might do better in bad times. Now, of course, we don't want people to go out there and resort to alcohol to try to shield themselves from their problems, because that will create more problems. But just like I said with my wife, okay, and we went for the crab cakes, we have alcohol here at the house. And we make sure that we're able to keep it here so that we can fix as many drinks as we want without paying an exorbitant price for one drink and a 6% tax on top of that. So a lot of people are following that lead. And in a situation where folks are home more often, you drink casually, you want to be able to fix your own drink. So the alcohol industry, there's several alcohol stocks out there. You can look into that. Healthcare stocks. Now look, regardless of what's going on, we gotta keep the machine called our bodies. We gotta keep it in good shape, good working order. And even if you're someone who doesn't pay attention to your health, if you get an injury, then you get a broken bone, you're going to seek professional health care. So healthcare is something that we're going to need regardless of whether or not we are in a recession or not. Now, let's go back real quickly. Diageo, that's a company that produces alcohol. Just look at it. I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm just saying from there, you can get other companies that are in that same industry if you type it into Google or Yahoo Finance. All right. When you talk about the healthcare industry, of course, you have Johnson & Johnson out there. You have hospital REITs, okay, real estate investment trusts, where they pool a bunch of hospitals. They buy real estate, and that real estate is hospitals, medical centers, and then whatever that corporation is paying to occupy that building goes into the REIT, and you get some payout from that. Now, we did a whole thing on REITs. I'll link to it. But you've got all kinds of different strategies within the healthcare market. That's a recession-proof business industry, along with, of course, the alcohol industry. Discount stores like Walmart and Target, people are going to be searching for bargains. Now, I know Walmart was down, like I just said a while ago. That represents a bargain. You got to do your due diligence to see if it's a buy or not. But if it is, right now, it is on sale. You can buy that company on sale. People are going to be looking at these dollar stores a little bit harder, even though I think it's $1.25 now. They just haven't changed the signage. And a lot of these companies do pay dividends. Now, there's precious metals. You can take a look at that. Usually they do well as a hedge against inflation. Now, right now, we're in a situation where the Fed is raising rates to try to stem the tide of inflation. He said he wants to go back to 2%. That's a far cry from where we are right now. So will we get there? Not in the near term. Now, gold is one precious metal that's been selling at around the 1700 mark. It's down from up near the 1900 mark earlier in the year. Fine, it's at a discount. Again, take a look and see if that's something that you think would be good for you. Look, we talked about real estate from the standpoint of a landlord. People got to live somewhere. And although we laid out in the last video the merits of purchasing versus renting, a lot of people are still going to rent because they may not be in a financial situation to purchase. So if you own real estate, you can actually take advantage of the higher interest rate and pass that on in the form of the rent to your tenant, and then put a premium on it, of course, for your profit. Now, the other thing about people moving to apartments, I hope this doesn't happen, but if we get into a situation where massive job losses start to occur, and there may be a situation where people start to downsize their homes. They want to unload that home in order to go move to an apartment. It may be less expensive in some cases. So it's just a general concept. Of course, you get a lot of tax benefits when you actually own investment property. Okay, we've been over that 1,000 times. And you can also talk to your CPA about that. Okay, so those are some industries that work well during a recession. And also right now, the stocks, at least, in some of those sectors are discounted. The last thing I want to go over here is creating a passive income stream. Now, just as it helps to create additional streams of active income, okay, like a part-time job or expanding your business, with enough passive income, you're going to be able to cover your living expenses. And then your day job will become optional. Now, you still want to hold on to the main source of income, but this passive income can serve as a parachute of sorts, a backup plan, plan B, in case you, are unfortunate and you lose your job, or in case your business starts to contract. Now, look, with the money that you're making from passive income, if you still got your job, if your business is still humming along, take that passive income and purchase assets, put it away, build that fortune, build that cushion. Okay. So I just leave you with, passive income and expanding your business will remove you from the worry of someone else making the decision as to whether or not you keep your main source of income. I've been there. I was with Verizon for 14 years. And in each of those years, they had what was called a RIF, or a reduction in force. And I never was a victim of that. However, there were some sleepless nights, okay? And that's why my mind started saying, no, I got to be more independent. This thing's got to rely on me, not some executive somewhere who sees me as a number, doesn't know who the hell I am. I went through several recessions, especially the dot-com recession and then the 2001 recession after 9/11. And I thought maybe I wouldn't make it through with a job. I did. But that taught me, hey, I don't want this feeling. If it is to be, it is up to me. So, all right, guys, listen, take a look at this video right here. You're going to find it very, very helpful in terms of understanding stagflation. All right? I'll talk to you soon.